What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Watch It in Action. I'm BouseFeenux, and today we're going to be taking a look at Nova Prime. Now, Nova Prime is one of my favorite looking and playing characters in Warframe. I love playing as Nova Prime. A lot of people claim this frame is their favorite. I really enjoy it, and the cool thing is, a lot of her playstyle is based off of one ability, and you think that would get really boring, but when we take a look at how the frame plays in just a second, you'll find that it's actually kind of interesting. So, that being said, I have two builds for this Warframe, and they're both actually based around the same ability. We have the Fast Nova build and the Slow Nova build. To see the Fast Nova build, just go ahead and skip ahead with the annotation. So, that being said, let's take a look at the Slow Nova build that we got here. This is the first one we're going to be showing you guys, and while we're doing this, we'll also show you a lot of her other abilities. And so what I've done here is we've got 3 Forma on this Nova, and this will work for both of the builds. The biggest thing here I want you to notice is that you need a positive power strength. That is essentially a power strength that's above 100% or higher. 100% or less than 100% is going to give you negative power strength, and that's good for a Fast Nova build, which I'll show you here in a little bit. But basically, this is the build here. Any of these mods can be maxed out. I just haven't gotten the cores yet, so if you want to put a max rank Narrow-Minded on there, that'll be great. You can do that. Max rank Prime Flow, all that stuff like that. If you have those mods and they're maxed out, go ahead and slap them on. You'll have enough space with this build. And, we'll even have enough space for this this Power Drift mod, or another 9-costing Exilis mod, if you want to put that in there. So that being said, let's take a look at the abilities we've got here, and the unfortunate thing is these are really cool. A lot of these abilities are super neat, but I find them not extremely useful a lot of the time. Wormhole is a great mobility, skill, but honestly, I mean, I don't use that too much. So going down the list here, we've got Null Star, which basically what this does is it creates like a little shield of particles around Nova, and the amount of power strength you have determines the amount of particles that show up on her body. And essentially what those do is they'll go out one at a time and target enemies. The only problem with this skill is A, a lot of people forget to use it, and B, it doesn't do a lot of damage or anything else really. It could be a lot better, but it doesn't really do much, and that makes it kind of useless in my opinion. The next one, Antimatter Drop, is arguably one of the more powerful skills in the game, but the only problem with it is I find it very cumbersome to use. It's slowed, it's hard to control, it's slow, and by the time it actually gets to a group of enemies, one of your teammates has probably killed them already anyway, but we'll show you how that works in here in a second. Wormhole, as I said, is basically a mobility skill. What it does is it creates a little portal, and you jump through it, and the range that you travel is based on power range, and you can see here we're in the negative because we don't have a lot of power range on this build. But at 23 meters, that's still pretty far for having negative power range. The next skill here, this is the skill that both of these builds are built around, and this is like her crowning skill. This is what a lot of people use her for. And that's Molecular Prime. The description here doesn't really give it justice and doesn't give you insight into what this ability actually does. It just says primes all enemies in a radius with volatile antimatter. What that means for us is, in a huge area, that's going to slow a ton of enemies down. And with the power strength we have, she has kind of a hard cap on this skill for slow percentage, and that's going to slow enemies by 75%. The other thing is it's going to allow them to take more damage too, and that's based on power strength as well. So this is a really, really useful skill, and we're going to show you how it works here real quick. Let's spawn some enemies. It doesn't really matter what level. Nova Prime is good into late or early game, it doesn't matter. I use her a lot for survivals. She's fantastic on survivals, really good frame to stay alive with, but honestly, she fits in just about anywhere. We're going to spawn some Corrupted Lancers for this, and I'm going to show you how this works real fast. So, if we throw up Null Star, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't take a whole lot of energy to cast this skill. We don't have a whole lot going on with it. It doesn't do a whole lot of damage, but the one thing you want to make sure you do when you get into a group of enemies is you want to throw down that Molecular Prime. That's going to make these enemies move a lot slower. See, this guy's actually trying to run right now, and he's just kind of dragging behind like he's got a cold proc on him. And then they're going to take more damage. The other thing that this skill does is it'll actually explode, and if enemies are caught nearby, it'll do an amount of damage based on power strength, that if another enemy dies and another enemy, it'll cause a chain reaction that's pretty nice and sets us up for a lot of kills. So this ability used to be even more powerful. It used to be based on power range is what people built it for, and instead of spreading out slowly like this, it was actually based on power range where this little molecular field would start. And they changed that a little while ago. But she's still, you know, pretty overpowered for all intents and purposes. Her second skill, Antimatter Drop, the one I was talking about that's super powerful, basically how this works is you can throw it out and you can shoot at it. It'll absorb damage until it turns that color right there, and it'll stop, you know, absorbing damage, but when it collides with a surface or an enemy, it'll do an insane amount of damage. That was, one of those did, I think it was over 500,000, not even crit damage, it was just straight up white, you know, regular damage, which is insane in a group of enemies, especially higher level. The only problem with it, like I said, is you control it by aiming your mouse, and it's very slow, it's almost delayed. And, you know, it's just kind of cumbersome. It's a slightly cumbersome skill. The last skill I want to show you here before we switch builds is the Wormhole Skill. So you just cast that, and you can step through it, and it teleports you. Pretty much, I mean, not much to this one. It's a decent mobility tool to get you out of trouble. It'll throw you up pretty high if you jump into it. It's pretty good for the speed run. If you're, you know, back when Lephantis was included in the speed run, it was good for getting around. But it's a pretty fun skill to use. Your friends can use these as well. One of my favorite things to do with it is in void missions, if we're racing each other, I'll put them backwards, so enemies that try to run through them will just be teleported back over and over and over again. So it's kind of a fun skill to troll your friends with. It has a duration, it'll stay up for a small amount of time, and then you can pass through it a couple different times. But, yeah, I mean, it's a fun little skill, nice little mobility tool, kind of a cool skill for Nova here. But the next build I want to show you is based on it's called a fast Nova build, is what a lot of people in the community call it. And essentially how this works is we're still going to be using Molecular Prime as our basic skill, like the one that we're going to be using most of the time. But the main difference here is we have negative power strength all the way down to 40%. Now, what this is going to do is it's going to make enemies very fast and highly susceptible to damage. So we're going to use some melee units here just so we don't get instantly killed. And I want to show you how this ability works real quick. So we see them here, they're at normal speed, they're running towards us. Now watch what happens. Now they're basically on crack. They'll move a lot faster, they'll take a lot of damage, as you can see I'm just tearing through these guys. I mean, the Bolter Prime is a pretty highly damaging weapon anyway. But I use this build a lot for, you know, survival missions. This is great for farming experience when you're trying to do it on survival missions because it'll make the enemies come faster, which makes the waves end quicker, which is really nice. So you can use any of our other abilities with that one. Portal still works, or Wormhole still works, stuff like that. You can still use Antimatter Drop, Null Star, stuff like that. You're going to have a lot higher range on this build because this build is built for range more than, you know, duration or anything else. So enjoy that extra long portal over there. But essentially, this is Nova, guys. This is basically how she's played, what she's played for. You just jump in, you throw that Antimatter Drop down, you know, you use the Molecular Prime, slow down the enemies. The Antimatter Drop is going to kill large groups of enemies if you can get it off, if you can use it. But I have a lot of fun with this frame. A lot of other people do too. She's very good at just about any level, any situation. One of my favorites in the game. I hope you guys got a lot out of this video, and I can't wait to see you at the next one. Thank you so much for watching.